love being in love. Yeah? And I'll tell you what else I'm loving, ladies and gentlemen, is this quest that is the questionnaire. Yeah. It's been a pleasure. So many great guests. And that pre-show questionnaire, I swear y'all are going to be able to check it out here sometime in the future if I ever get this website set up. You know, it's a lot to set up, I ain't going to lie, right? But tonight's guest, I'm going to be messing with a little bit. Yeah, so we got Rich Douek in the house. How you doing, man? Douek.
Good, man. How you doing?
Douek. Look, come back for 2 PanCons. I'll stop fucking up your name. Just ask Tom Brevoort.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. My name's, it's weird. It's got like 3 vowels in a row, so people struggle with it. I get it. It's all good.
Why can't anybody just have an easy name like Mike Ruth back here? You know what I mean? Like Mike's got an easy name, Mike Ruth. It's simple, but like, and some of the creators I brought on, I'm like, I still can't pronounce some of their damn names. They've been on the show, some of them more than one occasion. And I'm like, yeah, no, but I can finally pronounce Tom's. It's Brevoort. Go check out that interview. It was a pleasure. But and when he came on the PanCon, because that was dope. But man, so I just got through. Damn it, I read it so quick and now I can't remember the fucking name. Hold on. Yeah, Breath of Shadows. Just got through all that. Or at least I think it's all that, right? Are there more than 4 issues of that?
Yeah, there's one more going to be coming out next month in June. There's issue 5 where we kind of like wrap everything up.
Had you not told me that, Rich, I'd have been kind of upset just based on how that ended. I'd have been like, kind of fucked up cliffhanger is this? Who wrote this? M. Night Shyamalan? You know, like, seriously, man, that took some interesting turns. But we'll get to that in just a moment. Firstly, it's a pleasure, man, and thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, I love bringing on creators, man. It's been phenomenal. But we're gonna get into your pre-show questionnaire a little bit here, right? Just a little.
Let's do it.
Right. Firstly, I've been waiting for the answer. I've been waiting for the answer of the Age of Apocalypse for favorite comic book art. Cause
okay. Yeah.
Look, he was like, that's not where I would have expected him to go. Bro, I'm the unknown factor. I go all over the place. Cause I too love that arc. Man, I do. I think, and it's probably because, you know, age range, and I know there are people that are, you know, probably older than both of us, and they would totally be like, no, like, because the Dark Phoenix we've had before, I've had a plethora of different answers to that question. But a lot of people have said their favorite comic is the X-Men when they were growing up. And so many times I'd had that answered, nobody had said the Age of Apocalypse. You kind of, yeah? Now I'm curious, man, what makes that your favorite arc in comics?
It was just like, you know, I guess, part of it's like just the timing. When I was like, I'd been into the X-Men for a while, and like I think I started reading it like regularly right around when like Inferno started, right? So it's like you sort of like, you know, all these characters, and you know what they're all about, and then Age of Apocalypse comes and it's like flips everything on its head, you know, like and it just sort of opened up like my mind to like all the like possibilities of like what these characters could be, like, you know, like you got Sabretooth on the X-Men, you got Magneto leading them, you got you know, Cyclops and Havoc working for Mr. Sinister, you know, like just all this stuff that was just like I never would have thought to do that. But then the other thing about it was that it's not like it was like felt like totally like random or anything. Like everything in it like kind of like made sense. You know what I mean? Like you were like, yeah, like so Cyclops is like evil working for like Mr. Sinister, but it's still like a true version of Cyclops. And like sort of like by the end of the arc, he kind of gets to the place where he's like you're like, yeah, like, you know, that's the character, you know, he's like, there's like some kind of like universal thing in him that's like not all bad, you know, I just think it was just epic, really well written, really well drawn, and just like kind of like blew my mind, at least as far as like what you could do with like these like X-Men characters that like, you know, you could like kind of throw them into like completely different kind of setting and change so many things about them and still be telling like great stories. Like that was like when I went from like, you know, reading like I think I was like I was buying maybe like one or two X-Men titles or whatever. Then when like Age of Apocalypse happened, I was just like, I need every single one, all of them. And like, you know, I still have them all, like first printings of like all the issues like in my basement somewhere.
I'm
like,
kind of jealous in that because I had all of them except Chronicles issue 1, where it was the human side.
Okay.
For some reason, I didn't have that one particular issue. Everything else within that run, I had it all the 4-issue arcs. They were phenomenally written. I think it's really well put together as far as, especially with how many different writers and artists they had to bring it together like they had from Alpha to Omega and even the pre-setup. And then I always have loved the character Bishop. I loved his story arc within that. You know, shout out to Sean Damian Hill, man, who's currently writing Bishop War or drawing Bishop War College, which is also a phenomenal piece of work. I highly recommend y'all check it out. But I'll tell you my main problem with the Age of Apocalypse is my boy got no love, man. Right?
He was.
Like he was taken out. I always remember that, like, because they made Nightcrawler a badass in that, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, you want me to deal with the assassin? Head gone. Why do you not like Deadpool, Rich?
It's not that I don't like Deadpool. I don't kind of like because I don't kind of like where Deadpool is like in modern times. Like I was way more a fan of like old school Deadpool, where he was like a badass kind of like wisecracking, yes, fourth wall breaking, like assassin, like all that stuff. Like, but like the only reason I don't like him now is because I think it's like got to the point where like the jokes are so like, it's like the jokes are more part of it than like, I don't know, like the badassery or something. And I might be wrong because like I haven't picked up the character
in a while,
so things might have moved on.
Okay.
No, I haven't read that.
Okay, this is the current arc that's dropping. This is issue 6, and I highly recommend it. You know what I mean? I think it shows that side of Deadpool, but I mean, I think that's evolution of the character more than anything, man. Because I mean, look, at least this symbol ain't being used by the police because they could never use it because they'd have to be way nicer than they fucking are.
Yeah, you got a point there. Yeah.
And
like, you know, like we're talking like least favorite character. It's still not like we're talking like on like a scale of like, you know, like it's not that I hate Deadpool. I just like, if you're talking like characters I get the most enjoyment out of, there's just like a lot more that I do. You know what I mean?
You got me. As the Wade Wilson of hip hop, and someone that, like I said, I've been a fan of. Yeah, man. I am the Wade Wilson of hip hop. And like, look, I dressed up for you. See what I'm saying? I got my socks on.
I see.
I got my hat. I got my
you got
shirt.
all Deadpool in the background. Yeah, man.
Hey, it's not all Deadpool,
Like,
man. I got some Red Hulk and some Carnage and Lion
yeah,
Cat and
yeah,
graphic novels that span a number of different imprints. Because I mean, I'm all about like I'm not, and that's what I was honestly kind of curious in your answer if it was going to be the fact that how that character has become so popular within pop culture, especially since the Ryan Reynolds films. Because I mean, I'll be
yeah.
walking around with a Deadpool shirt and people will be like, "Hey man, I love Deadpool." My brain instantly goes, "Okay, man, you don't know anything about this character." Hey, bro, that's cool. Like, because I'm not trying to be a dick, and that's cool. They like the movies. I appreciate the fact that they do appreciate what Ryan Reynolds has done with the character. Um, at the same time, I've read most of what Deadpool has been in, and
Mm-hmm.
and so like it's a different level of appreciation. So I was honestly kind of wondering if it was just that because I know Rob, who runs Comic Book University, has said the same thing about Spider-Man. He's obviously a bit older than I am. From it, being like, oh, Spider-Man's this comic thing, and now it's just known. Like he is a known
Mm-hmm.
commodity. Like
Yeah.
everyone knows who Peter Parker is. So I was curious if that was something in regards to that.
Yeah, I think part of it's like it's kind of like what you're saying in that, like, a lot of like new fans of Deadpool that may not be like super familiar with like the whole thing of the character, and they just know him from the Ryan Reynolds movie. And again, like, great, that's, we want more people kind of coming into the comics world, like from the movies and like learning about it and stuff. But it's like, I think like maybe like what rubbed me the wrong way is a little bit is like you go into conventions and you get people in Deadpool cosplay, and like to sort of like complete the whole thing, they're trying to be funny like Deadpool, but they're just not funny. It's like it can get a little bit annoying when you just see it like over and over and over and over again.
I mean,
It's like you're just like, all right, come on, enough.
fair enough, Rich. I haven't honestly been to a convention in quite some time. I need to get out to one so bad, especially for the fact that,
Yeah.
like, God, if I got to one in Canada, I would probably know. I would know upwards of 20 fucking people there just because of the people we've interviewed on the show. I mean, just and all pleasure. I want to point out,
Mm-hmm.
or just any con anywhere, man. There's a lot of people that we've interviewed on the show that I'd love to have a chance to meet in person. But I do get the fact, like, if you're gonna cosplay as Deadpool, um, and you're gonna talk like that, yeah, you need to be funny, or it's not gonna work. It's
Yeah.
it's it's not gonna work, man. It's not gonna work. Yeah, so I could see that being a problem just because of uh how huge of a character that's become in the past. I don't know what 5 to 7 years. I would say. I think that's about right. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, like since the movies, yeah.
which shout out to Ryan Reynolds real quick. He's done phenomenal on those films. He literally brought Wade
Yeah.
Wilson to life. I thought it was awesome. But all right, let's flip the script, man. Because like I said, I am the Wade Wilson of hip hop. That means I make music, right? And
Mm-hmm.
right, Breath of Shadows. That's intriguing. Especially,
Yeah. Thanks.
yeah, I've had the benefit of performing in quite a few different places within the Midwest and interacting with a large number of other hip hop artists, especially based on the fact that I ran a radio for 3 years. It's funny in reading this, I'm sitting here going, I know dudes kind of like this. I mean, never that reached like Beatles fame, but got a sense of notoriety and suddenly had a real coke problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
where did you like? Do you have any musical background?
Well, I was never really in music myself because I tried picking up guitar a couple of times, never really like got into it. But I had a lot of friends in like my younger years, like especially like high school, college, and stuff that were like in bands, and I was like, you know, more than a friend, less than a roadie kind of, you know what I mean? Like I would like go to all the gigs, help them set up, like you know, be backup like for whatever they needed, you know, like had a couple of friends who were in like hardcore bands, so it's like sometimes fights would break out and shit, and you gotta, you know, be like, you know, be there for support them and stuff like that. So I was always kind of like never in the band, but like with the band. So, you know, it's like and you see a lot of it, like a lot of the stuff in Breath of Shadows is like it's not like based on like one person like directly, but it's just you sort of, it's like people I know, it's like, you know, not that I know anybody who's like super successful. Like my friends are all like, you know, they were in bands, like they're all like working jobs now and stuff, like, you know, didn't really stick with it. But it's like you just sort of get that little taste of like people cheering for you and like, you know, it and like yeah, it just kind of like it can change people, you know, and it could really like lead you down some dark paths because it's almost like expected sometimes that you're just going to be living this like partying, like, you know, partying lifestyle, and you have to like uh, drink more and do more drugs and have more sex than like anybody else because you're that guy, you know. So yeah, it's like I said, it's not like based on any one person directly. It's just sort of like my observations of like, you know, friends that were kind of like in a kind of like a small version of that lifestyle, like not like you said, like not like Beatles fame or whatever, but like, you know, like in a scene, like, you know, like every city has a scene, and it's like, you know, some people like when you know you rise to like the top of your scene or you're like active in that scene, and it's like, you know, it's you know, it's almost like a drug itself, like, you know, fame and performing and stuff like that. So
I can't tell you, Rich, how much I've seen it firsthand.
mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, like I said, because I ran an online radio for 3 years, I performed in a number of places all through the Midwest. But I was odd in the fact that I started doing hip hop when I was 32. So
Mm-hmm.
I've technically only been doing it 7 years. And when I came in, I would say my greatest influence as an MC is Stan Lee. Now, in all sincerity, it's comics in general and all the great comic artists and writers that I'm a fan of. I say Stan Lee because it's the easiest simplification for people to understand as far as and get where I'm
Oh
coming
yeah.
from. Um, but it gave me two things very early on. One, it gave me a very extensive vocabulary because I've read a shitload of comics in my life, right? And it gave
Mm-hmm.
me a good storytelling ability when I do a track. Um, so I made a lot of people mad real quick. I mean, not intentionally, you know, just as a side effect.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that effect of where there's somebody that's big in the local scene and then they don't like that someone else is making noise. And suddenly I've got 12 people that are really, really drunk trying to jump me in a bar, but that's neither here nor there. But it's funny that there were 12 of them and they still had to be drunk, but Jesus Christ, you know? And I've seen
Yeah.
other ends of that, like performing up in Flint, man. There's this one group, and they were getting bigger notoriety in the underground. They were getting fairly well known. I mean, they're good dudes, but one of them developed a serious, serious coke problem to where DJ hit an air horn in the middle of his set, and he about beat the shit out of the DJ. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
simmer, simmer.
Yeah.
So, so out of all things, man, what made you decide to write about that for a comic book? And I do just want to point out that it proves more than anything something we've said in several past episodes of this show. Comic books cover any and every subject you can think of anymore. You know what I mean? Which
Oh
I
yeah,
think is
for sure.
phenomenal. But what made you decide to go that route? Because it's very intriguing.
Oh no, yeah. Well, the artist Alex Cormack, he's my artist on the series, and him and I we've done couple of books together with IDW. The first one was called Road of Bones, right? And Road of Bones was like set in it's about these prisoners in 1953 in Russia. They're like prisoners in like the gulag, right? So like they're in like a work camp getting worked to death. And the main character gets kind of like brought into this escape plan. So it's like these three guys escape, but they escape into Siberia, which is like one of the most harshest places on earth, right? And as he goes along, he comes to realize the only reason they invited him along is because they're planning to kill him and eat him along the way. And basically, he's kind of got to make the decisions to like, how he's going to like be getting out of that, right? So when Road of Bones finished up, it was a 4-issue series. People dug it, and IDW came to us and was like, we want to see some more from you guys, right? So like, let's think of another series. And we were like, there was a point where we were like, should we do Road of Bones 2? Electric Boogaloo, whatever. We didn't want to do that because we really liked where the story ended and didn't want to kind of like do the thing where like, I don't know, 10 years from now we're doing like, Road of Bones 6, Road of Bones Takes Manhattan, or like some shit like that. You know what I mean? So we're like, well, what do we like about it? We like that it was like, kind of set in a historical period. It was dealing with like supernatural horror, but also psychological stuff, right? So we thought of another book. Alex also really wanted to draw something underwater. So we thought of this book called Sea of Sorrows. Sea of Sorrows is about this, like, again, like, we wanted to make it historical. So we set it in like post World War One, and it's like the salvage ship going after like some sunken gold. They run into a sea creature, and everybody's like, they kind of find out that they were like basically lured out there to be fed to this thing, and it's like just like really, it's like a lot of tension because they're on a boat, so like nobody can get away. It's almost like kind of like The Thing or like Alien or something, but like like that kind of like tension. And again, like people dug it and they were like, all right, like one more, like we want to do some more. So Alex and I were talking, and I was like, I really want to do something of like dealing with like, like people's addictions and just like how it can kind of take over your life almost without you even noticing. And he was like, I really want to draw a book set in the jungle, So I was like, all right, jungles, like what could we do? And again, it's like we kind of wanted it, even though it's like different characters, we wanted it to kind of be able to hang with the other two series, So we were like, what's like a historical period? And so we kind of were talking and settled on the 60s. We thought it'd be cool because it was like, psychedelic era, and like you had like, one of the things I always thought was really interesting about the 60s in hindsight was that it was like this like era of like all this like hope and shit, like that like love and LSD was gonna like save the world and kind of like take take us to like this new level of consciousness where we're all like living in peace and happiness, and how it all like over the course of like 5 years basically like fell apart. And then you're like in the 70s, and like, and then like 5 years later, it's like if you take like kind of the peak of it to be like 68, like 10-12 years later, it's like you're already like at like yuppies and greed is good and like all that shit. So just thought there was like something really interesting to explore in that time era. And then it was like, well, okay, jungle. So like the obvious jungle in the 60s to set a story would be Vietnam, but there's been a shit ton of Vietnam stories, and I didn't really want to like I didn't want to like do something that had been like done so much before, and also didn't really want to kind of deal with like that aspect of it. Like I was more interested in like the kind of psychological aspect of it. So So yeah, so just long story short, doing research, found this book by William S. Burroughs. I don't know if you know him. He was like this author who's like he was like a beat poet in the 50s and stuff. But it was called the Yage Letters, and it was basically like he was like a heroin addict, and he went down to Mexico in search of this drug that he called Yage. Nowadays we call it ayahuasca. But it was basically like kind of like back then, you know, the rest like the Western world, like it wasn't really well known. So there were a lot of like weird, like kind of legends and kind of like, you know, miracle cure shit like ascribed to it. So that was kind of like a big inspiration of like kind of how the story all took shape and how all the different elements kind of came together.
I gotta know. You ever done ayahuasca?
No, I haven't. I totally fucking would. I just haven't had the opportunity.
Or
because I hear
DMT?
it. No, never done DMT. Done quite a bit of drugs in my time, but I've never done those. It's one of those things. It's like yeah, if I was going to do it, I would want to kind of do it right and like go down there to like one of these things, you know, where you like have like somebody guiding you and shit like that. Like it seems pretty cool. Like I'd definitely
Yeah,
be
because
down, but
if you just get some really good DMT from some hippies and then just go smoke it, it can be interesting.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't speak from personal experience. That's neither here nor there. You know, I swear that's not a.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, it's like I hear. I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, you know, like you know, like LSD and MDMA and like all those psychedelics. It's like they're originally kind of like developed to help in like psychiatry because it was like supposed to kind of like break down the barriers in your mind. And it's just like people sort of found like, you know, taking more than the recommended dose had some more interesting effects.
I
But
mean,
you
yeah.
know,
I mean, to that effect, Siegfried. Or I mean, yeah. Wait, no, yeah, Siegfried. Yeah, right. Yeah, Siegfried. Wait,
who
Freud. Why the fuck? Freud. My bad.
Freud, yeah, Sigmund
Freud
Freud,
would prescribe. Yeah, he would prescribe coke. You know what I mean, to his patients
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
such. So I think the medical field is always developing in that, and I know for a fact that they've actually started to use mushrooms to. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is still kind of in the experimental phase as far as to treat issues like that, man. So I think that's something we're all always discovering as a species as far as what does and doesn't work. And I just hope we figure out what works enough to where, you know, we don't end our species. Because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I I have sons, so I'm hoping we as a whole become a little more aware of ourselves, I'll say, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And aware of the thing that we live on, and the fact that if you abuse something, it might come back and bite you in the ass. And I think that up to and includes a planet personally. You know,
Yeah.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
just saying, man. You know, but that was a very intriguing story, man. But I didn't realize I was trying to look all over to figure out where the hell it was published from. I don't know if the copy you sent me just didn't have that as far as the IDW logo, because I didn't see it on there. Maybe I just didn't look close enough. I'll be real honest. My time, I was trying to make sure I got through all of it before we conducted this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um,
no.
what's your thoughts on that whole issue? And wait,
Yeah,
for anyone that doesn't know, since I'm just like that whole issue, IDW just released 40% of its employees, correct? Which condolences. I hope
yeah.
everyone that this caused an issue for is able to move forward and continue the work that they love and enjoy. Um, it's kind of sad. There's a lot of stuff from IDW that I read. I think IDW puts out great work. I think and we discussed this on Last Month in Comics, myself and Dave. I think a great deal of what affected them was losing the G.I. Joe and the Transformers properties. I think that it certainly didn't do them favors, you know?
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
but what's your overall thoughts on what just happened there, man?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because, like, uh, I didn't know everybody that got laid off, but I did know quite a few of them, and they're all great people, did great work, and you know, like absolutely, you know, uh, deserve to like have like long and fulfilling careers in comics. Um, just like the people in like the production department and like the PR and marketing, like always got along really well and always found them really friendly. So yeah, I mean, it sucks, and I'm not like privy to kind of like their financials. Like I don't know why like any of it happened, but like from what I from what I do know from the people that I still know that like work there, because like my editors on Breath of Shadows are still there, and like the I know Mark Doyle, who's he was the head of originals line. Now he's like taken over as publisher and stuff. And it's like, so all I really know is that like, as many good people that got let go, there's still a lot of good people there. And, like, if the ship is able to be turned around, I have faith that they'll be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like, again, like, I don't know, like, I'm not like an employee. I'm just sort of like, somebody that works with them. And like, I don't know, like I don't know, like what they need to do to like kind of, get the company to a healthier place. But it's like, I know that like, Mark's got a really good head on his shoulders. Jamie, who's the new editor in chief's got a really good head on his shoulders. Like the people that are, stepping into leadership positions, I think that, if anyone can do it, like they'll be able to do it. And I hope they do because I love working with them. So it's just like really unfortunate. It's like, it's a shitty time for the company. It's a shitty time for the economy in general. Like, comics publishing is not a forgiving business where you can like, have like, you know, you have like a couple of bad years. It's like, it's not like it's so profitable that like you can like, kind of stretch it and stretch it and stretch it. It's tough. And IDW also was like, getting into like producing their own uh like producing stuff like for Hollywood and streaming and stuff. Like they had like Lock and Key and a couple of other shows, and that stuff is like, it's like you think comic books are expensive to make. It's like that shit is like really fucking expensive to make. So it's like yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate that it happened, but it's not like Breath of Shadows 5 is still coming out. The trade paperback's still coming out. Like, I would very happily work with them again. Like, they've always been like really good to me. So, it's just sort of like a shitty situation. It's kind of hoping for the best.
I kind of say again, condolences to everyone that's affected.
Yeah.
I do agree very much. I hope IDW is able to correct whatever ship. But you bring up a great point as far as with Lock and Key, which as far as I know was fairly successful. I mean, the wife just said she loved the show. But it seems like, and I've had this conversation with several creators, it seems like just because the show does well, it doesn't necessarily help the comic books. And to the point where
Yeah.
on the last This Month in Comics, Dave said something to me that frankly blew my mind, Rich, which is the fact that, because he works at Comic Book University, which is a comic book store up in Indy, and he said at least once a week they have someone walk in, and when you walk in the door, there's a couple little racks, and then their actual shelves start with just comics, and there's an end cap right here. and it's just all
Mm-hmm.
Walking Dead. And at least once a week, someone walks in and goes, "Oh, they made Walking Dead comic books."
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the side of my
Yeah.
head
I mean,
the second Dave told me that, Rich. So I'm curious to that effect.
yeah.
But why do you think that the popularity in different mediums doesn't drive comic book sales? Like, what do you think about it? Because there's been. I'm not going to sit here and list the things that have been done from comic book material. Just type in comic book movies and TV shows on Google if you all want to know. The list is really fucking long. It really,
Yeah.
really is. Why do you think that doesn't
But it's
affect the
like,
drive of the comics?
it's like a top to bottom thing because I mean, like, you look at like when Avengers Endgame came out, like it was like the number one movie. I don't know if it's like the number one of all time or whatever, but it's definitely top five. You know what I mean? It's like billions and billions of dollars that it made, and it didn't. It's not like every single person that went and saw it went out and bought a comic book because they wanted to see more, of the Avengers or like whatever. And that's
If
what's
one in a
fucking
hundred
weird.
people, if one in 100 people that seen that
Yeah.
movie would have turned into Avengers fans, it would have helped the comic book industry so much. Because I feel like, and I could be wrong in this, but if you go and you start at that, and you actually
Mm-hmm.
go into a comic book shop, you know what I mean, and you start reading some Avengers, I
Mm-hmm.
would hope there's going to be an employee there that's like, oh, well, hey, you really like the Avengers? You should check out blah blah
Oh
blah
yeah.
blah. Like
You'd hope, and I think I think a lot of I think almost every comic shop I've been to has that employee, and most comic shops that I've been to are great at turning people on to different things and like figuring out what they. I think the biggest problem in my head, at least, is that like I don't think that comics are as accessible as they should be or could be, because it's like if you don't live in a city that has like a comic shop, if you don't live in a town that has a comic shop, you might not even know that they fucking make comics anymore. You know what I mean? Like it's just not like it's not like, and I'm not, I know like I talk to people about this stuff all the time, and like it's like when I was a kid, you could walk into like a candy store, you walk into 7-Eleven, and buy comics, and it was like I don't know, 75 cents or whatever, like you just pick. I would get like a stack of comics and like a Slurpee, and then like that was like my Saturday when I was a kid. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I know it's like almost like you kind of can't go backwards anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not as simple as just being like, oh, they should be on, on newsstands again, because newsstands are not in
let's just
great
say
shape either.
because that's the cover price,
Yeah, that's a big
right?
thing too. It's
Which I
like,
think is a huge factor.
yeah, because you buy like 4 comics, it's like you got yourself like a Netflix subscription. You know what I mean? It's like there's like
Well,
a lot more competition for like people's like how they spend their time and stuff. But I think like the big thing is that like it's just not like you have like if you want to get into comics, like you have to like really fucking actively seek it out. It's not like oh hey, the movie's opening, like it's like a 5-minute drive and I can go, I can go see it. And you know and the other thing is that it's a different experience than like you can like sit and watch a movie, you can like kind of to a certain extent like turn your brain off and just sort of like take the ride, like all this like stuff is like coming at you. It's like a comic, it's like reading a book, it's like you got to read, and that's not everybody's fucking thing. Unfortunately, I think we'd probably be a lot better off if more people are into like reading and stuff. But
yeah, I fully agree with exactly what you just said, man. I mean, like it's sad how many people just don't read, even like look, that's why I swear I'm about to start putting another link in every episode of the show, which is going to be for a website which is going to be for a website you can go and order comics, and they'll be at a discounted rate, and they'll be delivered to your home every month. It's a service that I personally am about to start using. Just to promote. I mean, and they have anything you can think of. You know what I mean? That way,
Mm-hmm.
and I say that way, if I'll hear about a comic we're talking about on the show, you can go and order it. Not that there won't be links in the description to all of Rich's work to where you can go check it out for anything we've spoke of. I just want to let you all know the links are in the description, regardless if you listen on Amazon, Google, YouTube, Spot, whatever. They're there. If you check the description, there are links there to get to Rich's work. I promise you. But you really do make me inclined to think that maybe I should include the link to that, because I mean comics and very much, in my opinion, promote literacy. I mean, I've heard stories
Oh
from
yeah.
I've heard stories from teachers. David Whalen, who will be coming on a recent PanCon. We won't get into the whole story of that and why it's not already out yet. Um, Sorry, that made my brain hurt a little, Rich.
No.
Jesus. Uh, but the fact that he's had students and he's brought comics in, and he's seen students that weren't into reading at all, and they're just sitting there and staring at these books,
Yeah.
and then are like, hey, can I get the next one? And I mean, especially when you've got things like so many. Well, I'm going to bring up a book that you just mentioned, which is you know what this is?
That's DC. Yeah, Doom Patrol. Yeah,
Yeah, this is
the new one, right? Yeah.
I highly recommend. I haven't gotten to read this issue yet. This is issue 2. It just dropped recently. It's been phenomenal, but I can't help myself every time I read Robot Man from hearing from Brendan Fraser's voice now, just like Dave said.
Yeah.
He says fuck, and I hear Brendan Fraser say fuck. It's like, oh, that's screwy, whatever. But I mean, that's been phenomenal. So you can even reference things for kids. I mean, you definitely aren't going to want to give like a young child Doom Patrol. Well, let's be clear on that, right? It's a little, it's a
Yeah.
little, it's a little much for like anybody. I would say under 13, maybe 14. Really, like you want to be at least in your upper, start teenage years really before you start getting into Doom Patrol. But I mean, there's every level. Like you can go get My Little Pony comics. Shout out to Tony Fleece, who also did covers for Plush. It's also not a comic book I would recommend for anyone under the age of 16.
Yeah.
So I mean, you've got every different level. I don't know why people don't understand that. Like, I feel like it's something that if it was even in school libraries, it would be helpful. But I feel like if you put it in school libraries, God knows the backlash you would get. Jesus, I don't even want to think about that. Like, you'd have some right
Oh yeah.
wing nut
No.
job asshole talking about mutants are a representation of blah 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 blah, and I'd be like, dude, shut up. You have a Punisher skull
Mhm.
on your fucking car, and you don't even know who Frank Castle is. Would you please shut up? Please shut up. Like, that's literally what I would end up thinking. Because I guarantee, I mean,
Mhm.
how many right wing people that got a Punisher skull in some capacity and don't know who Frank Castle is?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's yeah.
I mean, yeah, it does. It very much promotes literacy, man. I feel like
Oh
that's
yeah.
something that's lost.
I oh for sure. I think like I know I have like I'm like a better reader having read like because like when I'm like you want to talk about like X-Men, like Chris Claremont did not dumb down X-Men storylines for kids and stuff. And so it's like I'm like reading all this stuff and like like whatever went over my head went over my head, but you know it kind of like spurred me to kind of like look up words I didn't recognize or like stuff like that and he would like maybe like be referencing something and then like see something else about it. I mean, it's like it's just kind of like um yeah, I think they were like a great help to me in terms of like creating like a lifelong love of not only comics but just of like reading and like seeking out knowledge and stuff like that. So I think that, yeah, like it would be great to like have them in school libraries, but yeah, it's like we just live in fucking crazy time. So
Yeah, imagine trying to put like plush or vinyl or plastic. Have you read those three books or any of them?
no,
Look, if you tried to put those in a
like
high school library, first it'd be hilarious. I swear I half want to go to my
mhm.
local high school and like I just want to buy a copy of plush isn't even out in graphic, but I half want to buy a spare copy of vinyl and plastic and just go put them in a high school library somewhere and just walk the fuck away. Like and just shout out to Doug Wagner, man. He does phenomenal work, but those stories are a little they're a little screwy, dude obsessed with a plastic doll to the point where it's like he goes John Wick when it gets abducted.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, like, yeah.
Yeah, which is and I mean even your book, man. I mean that's definitely it shows the trials and tribulations of drug abuse,
Yeah.
and what
That
it can
that
lead
would
to. I mean
apply.
there's
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much more depth to that story as far as like if you really look at it, you can understand that, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't do drugs because, oh my God, look where it could lead me. Like I think there are bugs crawling out of people's veins and mirrors and this and that. And, you know, yeah. So maybe even through that art form, you could get that representation through people's heads. I mean, through young kids and such of that, just that knowledge. And I mean, if you could do that and lessen the drug problem in this country, Jesus, I got too many meth heads around me. I'll say that, but that's besides the point. You know what I mean? And if you could do anything to just lessen that and increase them wanting to just fucking read as opposed to shoot up, what's the problem?
hmm Yeah. I mean, like one of the interesting things with Breath of the Shadows that I thought was really great was like um a couple of people had like kind of tweeted about it where like they were like I'm an addict like in recovery and like um whenever I read books about addiction they kind of piss me off because they never show it right. They never like really um do it and they were like but this book like does it right. Like like this book like really felt like true to me. You know what I mean? And like that was just like holy shit. Like I never really kind of expected to get that kind of response. Like and if it's something that kind of like helps just those like two, three dudes that tweeted about it, like, contextualize like what they're going through and maybe like helps them out, out somehow, then yeah, I mean like I think that's like a great thing. So
Well, and I mean, if you think about it, if there are two or three dudes tweeting about it, there's more than that aren't saying anything that
yeah,
actually be helping because that's just
yeah,
frankly the way
for
the
sure.
world works. Yeah, some people don't speak, some people will. The percentage of people that would speak on something like that, I think, are far less than the percentage of people that would. And that goes back to the point of comics just being helpful overall, whether it's that or just being able to accept who you are from reading a book like Saga or a plush. I don't mean to bring it up again, but that's very much how the story arc goes. It's about it's
Yeah.
about being able to be who you are in that regard. And Saga is very much the same thing as far as just being able to accept who you are and be who you are. I mean, there are so many examples. I mean, even the X-Men, that's exactly what it's about. It's about accepting who and what you are and going forward with that. And people could take those lessons from comic books or anywhere else for that matter. I frankly don't give a shit where you get that lesson. Like, but if you could learn that lesson as a human being, it would make us better as a species overall. You know,
hmm
that's what because I'm sorry, you're not going to learn that lesson from a fucking movie. You're not.
Yeah, well, yeah, movies are they're passive kind of passive form of entertainment. That's like it's like just some goes in your eyes and in your ears and take the ticket, it's a fun ride, but it's not the same as like it's not as like kind of engaging with your brain as like written material.
Well, yeah, and I say that, and I totally agree with you. It's because
Yeah.
whether it's a comic book or a book, excuse me, within that, your brain is visualizing things. I mean, if you're reading a book,
Yeah.
it's obviously visualizing way more, but if you're reading a comic book, you can't tell me when you read a comic book, you're not visualizing what is between the panels that you're reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And see, I know, I don't know, man. It annoys me. I will say, Chris, man, who you can check out his past interview, great colorist, had a great idea for getting comics out there, which was a just like a comic truck. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
Like
yeah.
loading up a truck with like, it would be a pain in the ass, I think, to do it properly. But if you could do it properly, I think it would be a great moneymaker, especially just getting rid of some old back issue arcs. Like if you could get whole arcs of stories, and here's the issues, and I mean you're selling issues sometimes at like $1 a pop on the back issues, and you're selling this
Hmm.
story arc for such and such amount of money, and you go to the theater when Guardians of the Galaxy or the next DC film or whatever opens. You go to the local library.
Yeah.
And it's a great idea. Someone needs to do it. I don't have time. All right, someone
Yeah.
out there.
I don't have a truck either, so
Yeah,
yeah.
that's it. Or the supply of comics, unless Rob would just let me raid his warehouse.
Yeah.
And I don't think Rob would be real happy if I just raided his warehouse. He'd be like, "What the fuck are you doing, Factor?" I'd be like, "Look, man, I'm trying to I'll bring money back. Just shut up, Rob." Yeah, yeah. He probably wouldn't be happy with me though. I don't know though. Maybe if I like took a truck and stole a bunch of his inventory and then came back and I was like, "Here's a bunch of money, but I'm taking this much," he'd be like, "You okay? Go raid my warehouse. Go raid my warehouse again." He might. Honestly, yeah, he
Yeah,
might
you never
honestly be
know.
down with that. Like, oh shit, dude, you sold a bunch of stuff. Never mind, go do that again. You know, and I think that's a great idea. I just don't know. It's the whole idea of how do you get comics into the hands of people, because like the only thing you're ever going to see in like Walmart or something like that, it's mainly going to be Marvel or DC unless it's some larger
Yeah, for
property.
sure.
Like, I mean, sure, you're going to see the Rick and Morty comics in there because it's fucking Rick and Morty, or something like
Hmm.
that. But they're never going to carry anything from IDW Boom. Like, look, if I seen like something is killing the children in at Walmart, I'd be like, fucking what?
Yeah. No, it's definitely like, yeah, like Walmart and, even like back when there was like Toys R Us and stuff, like their comics and stuff, but it was all just like Marvel and DC stuff. But it's like if that's what it's got to be, then that's what, like kind of like the hope is that like, Marvel and DC is kind of like the gateway drug, and then but it's like what you need, I think, is like it's like you kind of need like more comic stores and more like, or it could be a truck or whatever, more like avenues for people to kind of like once they do read something and they do like it, for them to just get more and more and more. You know, like that's a great part of walking into a comic store is like you might walk in, looking to pick up, I don't know, Spider-Man or whatever, and like maybe you see like a cover that kind of catches your eye and you flip through and you're like, oh, hey, like, what's this book? Let me check it out. Or, you overhear some people talking about how cool the book is, or you talk to somebody in the store and they're like, oh, you like that? You're going to love this. It's like, there's no like, I don't think there's like some sort of like uh, magic solution. Like, I think it's like brick by brick, person by person. And like I don't know, might not happen in our lifetimes, but just keep fighting.
Well, speaking of wishes, right?
Hmm.
I gotta pick on you. Like, I gotta go back to the questionnaire a little bit, which I swear y'all are gonna be able to see these soon. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to keep up with editing right now. All right, I really am, to where this shit is dropping to where y'all can hear it everywhere, and yeah, and then life, whatever. So 3 wishes, man. Right, to live in good health
Hmm.
as long as I want to. All right, solid. Right. right? To be able to travel through time. Why are you trying to fuck up the continuum, man? All right.
I don't know. I just think it'd be cool to, not to do anything, just, sort of
Bullshit,
like go
Rich.
observe.
Ain't 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 nobody gonna get, ain't no human being gonna be given the ability to travel through time and not step on a fucking butterfly somewhere.
Yeah.
All
Might be
right.
better to like maybe wish for like some kind of magic TV that I could just sort of tune to whatever time and just sort of check it out. That
I
might be
mean,
a little
yeah,
less.
that would, yeah, because then you're
Yeah,
definitely not gonna step on anything. I don't know though. You could
that's
find
true.
some weird shit about like what's about to happen in 5 minutes though that you could affect too. But at least then you're not affecting the entirety of what has already happened. So that would be different. So yeah, but yeah,
Hmm.
no, you dude, no human would have that ability and not step on a butterfly, fucking
That's
somewhere.
true.
And then you're gonna bring out goddamn Godzilla and King fucking Kong. And I don't need that shit, bro, because I'm telling you, that lizard will whoop that ape's ass and then eat the rest of us. That's the end of that fucking story. All right. And then know how the universe and magic works. So you want to be Doctor fucking Strange?
Well, it's like if I'm getting the wish, like I kind of want to know how how the whole wishes work.
Uh,
Like I don't know, because it seems like you wouldn't be able to wish for like 100 more wishes, but if you kind of know the rules of the game, you can get a lot more done. I don't know. It's like because I was thinking of like like do you always wish for like kind of like selfish wishes, or are you going to wish for like world peace? You're going to wish for like people to be like kind of kinder to each other, and then it's like then you kind of run up against that whole like free will thing. But then you know, but then if you just sort of like know like if we're in a universe where like magic and wishes and stuff like that exist, if you don't know the rules of the game, then maybe you could kind of like do some good instead of playing it blindly. I don't know.
and then you find out that we're all really just in control by an alien race or a fucking giant simulation that was created 30,000
Yeah,
simulations ago, and you get really depressed and just
yeah.
go start doing drugs.
There you go. Yeah, maybe it's some alien centipede god that.
I don't even know what the fuck to say to that, Rich. It's just Jesus Christ, man. Uh, I I don't want a giant centipede god, right? But I do want to know,
No,
right?
neither do I.
Yeah, that sounds terrible, Rich. But I do want to know, man, right? So, in the aspect of your job, you love writing dialogue, which
I
I
do.
can see that, man. I've run so many scripts in my head. Like, I probably should write fucking dialogue, but that's neither here nor there. Um, why do you hate naming things?
Because it's like it's not as much of a problem in like something like books like Breath of Shadows and CSRs where it's like taking place in the real world and stuff. But like if I'm gotta think of like names for like fantasy or like science fiction stuff, it's like I'll think of a name and then I'm just like, this sounds just ridiculous and stupid. and um and yeah, so I'll change it, and play around with it and monkey with it until I find something I like, but just like the whole process is just like annoying sometimes. It's like, okay, well, this is like, I don't know, some hero. And then it's like, okay, and where's he from? I got to name that fucking place too. And I got to name the place he's going to. And I got to, like, all that stuff. And just like, yeah, like, I don't know. It's like, there's no like reason why, like, you know, orc or elf or like that does not sound weird to me. But like, you know, like naming like some other kind of like if I came up with some name for, I don't know, a fantasy race or whatever, like I would be like, dude, are you kidding? Like this sounds ridiculous. So that's just
You
that's my
gotta
favorite
remember.
thing.
You gotta remember.
It's always a process.
I guarantee you, when someone that first wrote the words orc or elf or whatever down,
Mm-hmm.
they probably thought
Yeah.
the exact same shit, Rich. I almost guarantee it, right? But what I want to know is, see, I already seen your questionnaire. But dear, come here.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't talking to you when I said dear, Rich, just to be fucking clear.
Okay.
Hey, dear. Right here.
Okay.
Right here. Right? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Spock.
Ooh,
Spock.
what are you gonna do?
I mean, I don't know. The only one that I can think the only one that I think where she would have lost that is if it was Sean Damian Hill, because he said Rick, and I think Rick takes Spock in a fight. I'll be real honest, right? Because, but I don't know if The Rock can handle the logic of Spock, man. I think Spock wins that one. I'll be real honest, but if that been Sean, babe, you'd have just killed Spock. Just to be clear, you really would have.
Shout out to Sheldon.
But look, if you want to hear, or if you want to read some very interesting stories, especially like a story on drug addiction that has fantastic twists, why couldn't you just send me issue 5 too, Rich? That was rude as shit, man. Fucking.
Well, I don't have like the PDF of it yet, but I'll send
Whatever.
it to you.
You know,
Second I do.
you know what's terrible, man? It's like, I don't know. We're gonna cover 2 other things, because I asked what 3 things you most want to cover. We ain't covered none of that shit except one of it, because that's just kind of how it rolls. Magic the Gathering comic. Are you working on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's done now, but I finished out like the last arc of it, issues 21 and 25. It was a lot of fun.
Look. I don't play TCGs, because apparently that's what they're called right now. I'm an old man, and I remember when there
Mhm.
were CCGs. I don't know when the fuck that changed, but apparently at some point it did, because I got, yeah, whatever. Um, how the fuck you do a goddamn fucking comic based on a goddamn fucking card game?
Well, like over the years, they just sort of like developed all this like lore. They were like characters and stuff. Like if you ever look at like Magic cards, it's like there's not a lot of space on them, but most of them have like a little kind of text. You know, it's like they got a really nice piece of art, maybe like a little something, or like alluding to wizard, and you kind of like over the years they've done it more and more where they start kind of like piecing putting stories together, as far as like every time they would put an expansion pack out, it would kind of have like a little story arc to it. And with the comics, it's like just sort of taking some of those characters and making the storytelling like a little bit more like traditional, so where you're not kind of like piecing it together from all the cards and like like reading like the back of the box and stuff like that, and just like taking the characters and just like telling a story, telling like a traditional like comic story with them. So they had all these guys, they're called planeswalkers, and they're basically like they can travel from plane to plane in the Magic multiverse, and they have feuds, and some of them want to take over the multiverse, some of them are more like freedom fighters, like just like a lot of different stuff. And so there have been Magic comics now for like gotta be like at least like 10-15 years that it was one of those licenses that like bounced from company to company, but Boom was the latest company to do it, and it actually was the longest running Magic the Gathering Kang, and went for 25 issues. And Jed McKay was writing him. Jed McKay, he writes Moon Knight. He's taken over Avengers. He's really great writer and like a good friend of mine. So he had written like I think up to issue 20, and then he kind of knew he was going to be getting a lot more on his Marvel plate, and wasn't going to be able to devote as much time as he needed to kind of keep going with Magic. So he was talking to his editors, and they were like, who do you know that like maybe we could like bring on as like a co-writer? And he brought my name up because he knew that like I was, a fan of Magic just in general, and like also like, we just get along really well. So yes, so they brought me on, and I worked with him to kind of like flesh out the last 5 issues that were going to like close out the series, and then it was off to the races. So there, I think issue 25, which was like the finale, came out like last month, and I think the like the hardcover or trade version is going to come out probably in June, July, maybe something like that, like a couple of months.
And there's links in the description to all of this. I swear, I really am about to just link that particular website that I've discussed. I don't remember the damn name of it, but I got Dave sent it to me, so that's fine. I can attach it just so if there's any comic that we've discussed that you want to purchase, you can go find it. As far as Boom, I guess it's just like I never got into the whole trading card game thing. It wasn't my bag, man. It wasn't my bag. Not to make an Austin Powers reference, but yeah, it really, really wasn't, man. I don't know. I guess like I played the Overpower a little bit. It's a
Overpower.
Yeah, Marvel.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
there was like a time like late 90s, early 2000s where like everybody had one of those games out because Magic did like so well that like every company was like, we need a piece of that. And then most of them just kind of died off, but Magic kept going. And like I was into it like years and years ago. I haven't like actually picked up and played in like, decades, but like had really like fond memories of it, just kind of like sitting around like playing with my friends and stuff like that. So
that was my brother's bag, man. Like Josh, like he absolutely loved. I don't even know. Hell, he might still play, to be real honest. I know he still trades in those things as far as making profit off of them. I'll say that much. I don't know if he actually takes the time to play at the age that he's in, because I know he got into miniatures and such too. I preferred my stories, man. So Magic is never anything I got into. But she said something about multiverse there, man. And I noticed the other thing that I took forever to get into that's on this list, because I just kept on Bones of Shadows and random jib jab and giving you shit about the fact that you don't like Deadpool. Yeah, that's why the attire, ladies and gentlemen, just jumping in. Like I tend to, normally I don't have this much fucking. I didn't have this much fucking Deadpool shit on and around me when I interviewed fucking Fabian, and he's one of the dudes that created fucking Deadpool. I just want to point that out, Rich. Right?
I like Fabian's Deadpool a lot. But yeah.
And hey, check that interview out, man. Fabian was a pleasure to have on. Man. We need to bring him up for a PanCon here soon, but I gotta schedule something in the middle of the week, and fuck, I might bring you on with him, Rich. We'll just make it real interesting. But Marvel, who is Kang? Right?
Yeah.
Is that dropped yet?
Yeah, that's out. That came out around when Quantumania came out, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah. Because I think the idea was that like if you saw the movie and you were like, who is this Kang person? And you want an easy primer, that was kind of like what the comic is. It's sort of like taking his insanely complicated and convoluted history, and just trying to get it into a format where like you could just read this like pretty short comic and just kind of know who he is as far as like the comics universe goes and what he's all about.
How in
And I had
the
a
fuck?
fun fucking time writing it.
How in the fuck do you even attempt to do that with Kane?
It's not easy. You kind of have to like, there's like a ton of stuff in his history that is not really like, like, not to say that like in the canon like it didn't happen or anything like that, but it's just not very important to like who the character is today. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think what I did was I really looked at like who Kang is like in like kind of like the current Marvel universe, and like what are the building blocks of that guy, like, so it's like, so some of his old adventures are kind of like just like a left turn into weirdness, like he was like the Scarlet Centurion for a while, and like, what is that? And it's never been referenced again. There was like this whole Celestial Madonna saga that I read, and not terrible, but it's just, again, like never referenced again. So it was just sort of like really like getting really down to like brass tacks. So it's like, so lived in the future, time traveled to the past, became a pharaoh for some reason in ancient Egypt, travels forward in time, fights the Avengers, or no, well, goes to the future, becomes Kang in the future, and then fights the Avengers, and then goes from there. So kind of like what I came up with was a story is that like, he set out on this quest because he was just really bored in his time. He was like, he lived in like a time where they had basically kind of conquered every ill of society. It was like a paradise, but there's no like challenges. There's no like, there's nothing to like drive people. It's like everybody's just sort of like,
But you bring up
soft.
who's whatever great, however many times I gotta say great, I don't remember, grandson he is?
Yeah.
Okay. That being Reed
Yeah.
Richards for everyone out there, because I don't know. That's one of the things that I'm kind of curious if they're gonna touch on that within the MCU.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I mean, like, I guess we're going to kind of have to see how it all links up, once the Fantastic Four movie's out. Like, they have to introduce Reed Richards first. So, so we'll
Who's
see what
apparently
happens.
actually finally been cast, from what I read recently. Even though I know
Right.
the dude from The Office was in the Multiverse of Madness. Apparently, that was just to appease the fans, and that's not actually who they're going to use as Reed Richards. Which I'm kind of glad. I want
Right.
them to use a younger. Not that he didn't do a good job. I'm not trying to say anything negative about the actor. I just wanted someone that was a bit younger in all regards. You know what I mean? And they've chosen shit. The dude in the name of the dude escapes me. But he just did at what 64 million I think it was, as well as he's Kylo Ren.
Oh, Kylo Ren. Yeah, what's his name? I know who you mean.
Yeah, I don't. His name escapes me. I'm sure someone in the comments fucking knows. But yeah, I don't remember. And I think honestly from seeing
Adam
him
Driver.
I think from seeing him in the
Driver. Yeah.
yeah, and I think it was 63. I think that's the name of that fucking movie he just did, where they like land on a planet and it's dinosaurs and all this, and it's. I think it looks like he could play that very well. I know people kind of shit on him for his portrayal of Kylo Ren. You know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. That's your opinion. Star Wars fans are very, very, very opinionated, and I'll just leave it at that, so I don't make anyone mad, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he could do a very good job, man. Were you kind of like trepidatious about handling that though, man? Knowing that one, you were writing a comic that was ostensibly to help people get into comics from what Quantuminium was. And two, you're handling a character with one of the most convoluted histories within Marvel.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a little like just kind of like when you look at it, like you know when I got the job to do it, like they basically sent me like a folder to download that had like you know every Kang comic, and there's a whole lot of them. You know, like I mean, I'm not sure it was like everyone, but it was like you know, like there was going all the way back to like you know his first appearances and stuff. So like you know, I read through all of it, and I think what really kind of cracked it was just sort of like realizing like, okay, well, I just got to figure out what I want to say about him. Like, you know, what do you want people to come away from this, like, you know, thinking about Kang? And, you know, it's like, he's got to be like a little bit relatable, but also like, you got to show that he's this, like, you know, he's a villain. Like, you know, I'm not like trying to like turn him into a hero. So kind of what I came up with was, and this is not just like, I didn't come up with this because this is like kind of talking to the editor and Tom Brevoort, you know, you mentioned before, weighed in on my outline and stuff, and just like talking with him and Mark, who is the editor, about like you know kind of what Kang is it's like he's never happy unless he's like challenged. So he's like always like challenging himself, and he really does want to conquer everything, every time, every you know, every place, everything. So
what you're saying in
that's
short, Rich,
crazy.
yeah, what you're saying in short, Rich, is Kang's a dick.
Yeah, and it's like he's like taking on this like insane kind of task, but he really thinks he can do it. You know, so it's like it's like kind of like I had to like kind of weave things together, like you know, like why did he decide to go back to be a pharaoh? Why did he then go back and decide to fight the Avengers? And what it was came up with was like he went to the past and he conquered the past. Then he got thrown into the future. He conquered the future. Why does he fight the Avengers? Is because he figured he's got to conquer what's in between. You know, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. It was a lot of fun though, because he is like a really interesting character in a way. You know,
That's
and I don't.
man. Look, dude, he does. He has one of I just he is a very interesting character, but him and Thanos both have things askew, right? Because one,
Mm-hmm.
you're never conquering everything, and two, if you just want to balance life and you have all the Infinity Stones, why don't you just double the resources like Chuck said, you asshole? Like you ain't gotta
Mm-hmm.
fucking kill half of everybody. You could just double half of what everyone, or you could just double what everyone needs, and look, voila, everything's fine, right? But you know, it is the cracks that let the light shine through. Those are words of wisdom from Rich, man, for real. It's and apparently Thanos didn't let that shine through properly. He's just like, I'm just gonna kill half these motherfuckers, man. I am. But like I said,
Mm-hmm.
make sure you check out all the links in the description. There's plenty of links to plenty of Chris's works, as well as I do think I'm gonna have to add that website where people can go and you can like get comics at like 20, 30, 40% off sometimes, graphic novels, this, that, anything that's ever been brought up in this show. If you can't find it on the site that's in this description, holy shit, I'll be bloody well amazed, man, because I've been going through there. There's even like figures and this and that. But I'll tell you, if you enjoyed this interview with Rich, right, what I want you to do is send him God damn, I need to highlight this shit. I keep saying that, and I never highlight this shit, right? I want you to send him a dragon, right? Just flying in with a bunch of War Duke action figures, right? Just drop off, chill out, chat a little bit, right? Now, if you haven't enjoyed this interview, what I want you to do is send him a bunch of shadow people to make him sit and watch Man of Steel and eat canned tuna. I don't think he'll enjoy that shit very much. But if you've enjoyed this, ladies and gentlemen, like, subscribe, click that notification bell wherever you are. Make sure you click to where you know when the next episode's dropping. And give it that thumbs up if it's an option. I don't know. With many platforms as we're on, it's technically not always an option. So whatever. Thumbs up that shit. Keep on with the quest, man. We got plenty of things coming. Plenty more. And it has been phenomenal talking to all the great creators that we have. Rich, it's been a pleasure, man. And all y'all out there, do me two things, right? One, get your comic on. Two, have a good night, y'all.